You know exactly what you need. You can feel the intention, clear and bright in your mind. You're going to the other room to get the thing, do the task, fetch the object you've been picturing. You cross the hallway, you step through the doorway, and it's gone. You stop in the middle of the room, completely blank. The purpose that was so vivid a moment ago has simply evaporated, as if someone reached into your head and pulled the plug. You stand there, slightly foolish, looking around for a clue, retracing your steps, muttering, "What did I come in here for?" And often the only way to get it back is to walk all the way back to where you started, back through the doorway, until the thought returns as suddenly as it vanished. Everyone has done this. It happens to the young and the old, to the sharp and the scattered. It is not a sign of a failing memory, and it is not a sign of age. It is so reliable, so universal, that scientists have given it a name, the doorway effect. And the explanation behind it is genuinely strange, because it turns out the doorway is not innocent. That ordinary frame you walked through did something to your mind. It reached in and cleared the slate. The threshold itself is the culprit. This is the liminal. Step into the space between. Part 1. The thing the doorway does. Let's start with what makes the doorway effect so puzzling. The forgetting isn't random. It's tied with eerie precision to one specific act, passing through a doorway. You can hold a thought perfectly well while crossing a large room. You can carry an intention up a long hallway, but cross a threshold, step from one space into another, and that's the moment the thought is most likely to slip away. The forgetting clusters right there, at the boundary. It's not the distance you walked or the seconds that passed. It's the crossing. This has been tested carefully, and the results are stranger than you'd expect. In experiments, people were asked to carry information in their minds while moving through a virtual environment. When they walked the same distance across a single room, their memory held. When they walked the same distance but passed through a doorway into a new room, their memory got noticeably worse. The only thing that changed was the threshold. Same distance, same task, same time. But the doorway, and the doorway alone, made them forget. And here's the detail that makes it almost uncanny. Researchers found that simply returning to the original room didn't reliably bring the memory back the way you'd hope. The doorway, it seems, doesn't just hide the thought behind you. It performs an action on your mind, a kind of mental gear change. And once that gear has shifted, you can't always shift it back just by retreating. Something has been filed away, and the file isn't always easy to reopen. So what is the doorway actually doing? To understand that, we have to look at one of the quietest and most important things your brain does without ever telling you. It chops your life into pieces. Part 2. The mind cuts your life into scenes. We like to imagine that we experience life as a smooth, continuous stream, one unbroken flow of moments running from morning to night. It certainly feels that way. But that's not how the mind handles it. Behind the scenes, your brain is constantly doing something more like film editing. It takes the endless raw footage of experience and slices it into segments, discrete chunks, scenes, episodes. Psychologists call the cuts between these segments event boundaries. An event boundary is the brain's way of saying one thing just ended and a new thing is beginning. The conversation finished and you stood up. That's a boundary. The task ended and you turned to a new one, another boundary. And crucially, moving from one physical place to another, walking through a doorway into a new room, is one of the strongest event boundaries there is. Why does the brain do this? Because continuous experience is overwhelming. To make sense of the flood, The mind organizes it into manageable episodes, each with its own little context. Where you are, what you're doing, what matters right now. Think of it as keeping a small mental whiteboard for the current scene, holding everything relevant to this moment, in this place. But here's the catch. When you cross an event boundary, when one scene ends and the next begins, the brain does some housekeeping. It files away the scene that just ended and wipes the whiteboard clean to make room for the new one. It's clearing the desk for the next task. And if the thought you were carrying, "Go get the scissors," was written on that whiteboard, tied to the context of the room you just left, then crossing the threshold can sweep it away along with everything else from the old scene. You walk into the new room with a freshly wiped board, ready for new information, and the old intention is gone, neatly filed under the previous room, sometimes just out of reach. The doorway, in other words, is one of the brain's edit points. It's where the scene cuts, and forgetting at that cut isn't a malfunction. It's the visible cost of a system designed to keep your experience organized. The doorway effect is what it feels like from the inside to watch your own mind change scenes. Part 3. You live in episodes, not a stream. Sit with that for a moment because it quietly overturns something you've always assumed about your own life. You don't actually experience reality as one continuous thing. You experience it as a series of edited episodes, stitched together so smoothly that you never notice the cuts. Your mind is the editor, deciding where one scene ends and the next begins, filing away what's finished, clearing space for what's next. The seamless flow you feel is an illusion of good editing. The same way a well-cut film feels continuous, even though it's built from hundreds of separate shots. The doorway effect is one of the rare moments when the editing shows. For just a second, you catch the cut. The thought you were holding belonged to the last scene, and the last scene has been filed away. And now you're standing in a new one with an empty board, feeling the absence where the thought used to be. You are, in that blank moment, experiencing the seam between two episodes of your own life. And this connects to something we've seen before on this channel. In déjà vu, the brain misfires its sense of familiarity, and you catch reality being built. In sleep paralysis, the brain manufactures a presence, and you catch it sculpting a monster from nothing. The doorway effect is the same kind of glimpse in a gentler key. It's another seam, another place where the smooth surface of ordinary experience splits open just enough for you to see that it was built, that what feels like one unbroken life is being quietly assembled, cut, and filed by machinery you never see. The difference is that this seam isn't frightening. It's almost funny. You stand in the doorway, blank and bemused, and the mind has handed you a tiny, harmless proof. You are not a continuous observer gliding through a continuous world. You are a series of scenes, and you are standing on the cut between two of them. Part 4. The threshold was always the edge. Here is where it becomes remarkable, because human beings sensed the power of the threshold long before any scientist measured it. Think about how strangely we have always treated doorways. Across countless cultures, the threshold of a home is a charged place, a boundary not to be crossed carelessly. People hang charms and symbols over the doorframe. They carry brides across the threshold rather than letting them step over it. They pause, they knock, they speak a word before entering. The doorway has been treated for thousands of years as a place where something changes, where you pass from one kind of space and one kind of self into another. We usually file all of that under superstition. But look at what cognitive science has now found sitting underneath it. The threshold really is a place where something changes. Crossing it really does shift your mental state, clears your working memory, files away the previous scene, resets the context. The boundary between two rooms turns out to be a genuine boundary in the mind. Our ancestors didn't have the language of event boundaries and working memory, but they felt the truth of it, that to cross a threshold is to become, very slightly, a different person on the other side, carrying a little less of what you held before. This is the heart of what this channel is about. The in-between is not nothing. The threshold is not just a gap between two real places. It is its own kind of place. A moment of transition where the rules shift, where things are lost and remade, where you are briefly neither who you were nor who you'll be. Folklore wrapped that truth in ritual and warning. Your own brain confirms it every time you walk into a room and stand there blinking, wondering what you came for. The doorway has always been the edge. We just finally found out why. Part 5. The gift of forgetting. So the next time it happens, and it will happen, probably this week, you don't have to take it as a sign that your mind is slipping. You can take it as the opposite, as proof that your mind is working exactly as designed. Because the forgetting is not the flaw. The forgetting is the price of something extraordinary. If your brain didn't cut experience into scenes, if it didn't file away the finished and clear space for the new, you would drown. You'd be trying to hold every context at once, the whole continuous flood, with no way to tell what matters now from what mattered a minute ago. The event boundary, the mental cut at the doorway, is what keeps your experience clean and usable. The occasional lost intention is a small toll for an enormously valuable system. You forget why you walked into the room because your mind is good at its job, not bad at it. But underneath the reassurance, the doorway leaves you with the same quiet, vertiginous gift that all these threshold states offer. You think you move through one seamless world, carried by one continuous self, and then you stand blank in a doorway and feel, for just a second, the truth. That the seamlessness is stitched, that the self is edited, that you are crossing cuts all day long and almost never notice. The whole of your life has these seams running through it. Most of them you'll never see, but now you know where one of them is. It's right there, in the door frame, and every time you forget why you walked in, your own mind is showing you, gently, almost playfully, exactly where it makes the cut. Outro. The threshold that wipes your memory, the glitch that fakes your past, the presence that fills the dark. They keep pointing at the same hidden truth. The continuous solid reality you trust is assembled, scene by scene, and the in-between is where you can watch it being made. There are more edges to find. The empty room that feels wrong for no reason you can name. The almost human face that turns your stomach. The sense, in a moment of crisis, that someone unseen is walking beside you. We'll open each of them in turn. If this gave you a new way to understand that blank moment in the doorway, subscribe and stay with us. New documentaries every Wednesday and Saturday. There's a whole country at the edge of consciousness, and almost no one ever maps it. This is TheLiminal. Step into the space between.